The case of the Byway kidnapping was inspired by the works of the Coen brothers, specifically Blood Simple, Fargo, and No Country for Old Men. Defining the Coen brothers' filmmaking style was difficult. While writing my creative investigation, I largely attributed their Coen-esque filmmaking to their writing as opposed to any preoccupation with particular micro-technical techniques. Nonetheless, Brian Papish sums up the Coen brothers' style in his article Everything You Need to Know about the Coen brothers' cinematic style as spanning a, quote, variety of genres combining cultural and historical references, cinematic homages, dark humour, witty dialogue, and various forms of irony. Because the Coen brothers, generally speaking, do not nail themselves down to one particular genre, I had relatively free rein on what I wanted to make. The Coen brothers, as I noted in my creative investigation, exhibited a preoccupation with the themes, characters, and stylistic techniques of film noir. As such, I decided to make a film noir or neo-noir production. I wanted to include a title card for the case of the Byway kidnapping as a cinematic reference to the film noirs of the 40s and 50s, films that would often include a similar setup for their opening credits. Following the prologue, we are introduced to the protagonist of the film, Dick Wolf, an overly arrogant private investigator. Chronologically, this scene follows the events of the case, soon to be detailed through flashbacks. His arrogance as a consequence of this case informs the tone of his voiceover during these flashbacks. I was eager to ensure that the Dick Wolf scenes in the case of the Byway kidnapping conformed as much as possible to the conventions of film noir. This is why Wolf is drinking in this scene. Detectives in film noir films are often flawed characters who are often victims of their own vices, in this case arrogance, smoking, and drinking. Furthermore, I wanted to frame Dick Wolf's story and flashbacks as being a film in its own right. That is, this is how Dick Wolf views himself, as the hero of his own movie. To this end, I wanted his scenes to look as traditionally cinematic as possible. This is why I chose to have my shots as tightly composed as possible, the use of black and white cinematography, as well as artificially constructed aspect ratio bars. The flashback scenes constitute the main bulk of the film. They follow Dick Wolf as he attempts to locate the missing daughter of Everett Clermont. To do so, he travels to Old Town and waits for his mark, Martin Davies, a criminal who may possess knowledge as to her whereabouts. I chose Old Town as the primary location of the film, as I felt its aged architecture and cobblestone streets constructed an accurate portrayal of the 1940s and 50s. I only wanted the film to be broadly set in this period. I didn't want to give the film a specific date, as I felt that would only constrict me in terms of what I could do and what I could get away with. Dick Wolf's smoking throughout this scene is another film noir convention I was sure to adhere to. However, I wanted to subvert it by having Dick Wolf cough violently afterwards to add some levity to the film. The close-up shot of Dick Wolf repeating "Dick Wolf, private investigator" over and over again is to illustrate how nervous he is in actuality. His confidence is a facade. Dick Wolf tails Martin Davies to a nearby bridge. The bridge is an architecturally modern one, but I think it works as part of a period film. Its lights provided good conditions for filming at night. The nature of the film meant I was often filming at night, which meant footage usually ended up being quite grainy. I managed to minimise this in post to some extent, however. Suddenly, in the midst of Dick Wolf's arrogant inner monologue, Dick Wolf is killed and the scene cuts to another on the sound of a gunshot. I wanted the film from this point onwards to be confusing and disorientating as the audience attempts to figure things out. From this point onwards, the film is largely in colour save for a specific shot. This is to illustrate how the movie Dick Wolf sees himself in is over, and the reality of the situation is about to kick in. In this scene, Dick Wolf's murderer can be seen burying the gun he used in a field. This scene was intended to be a homage to a similar scene in Fargo, in which the character Carl buries the suitcase of money along the highway. I wanted Wolf's scenes to be massive build-up for a payoff that would never come. This was somewhat of an effort to replicate No Country for Old Men. The protagonist Llewellyn is killed off-screen, resulting in the audience feeling unsatisfied as they have been waiting for a payoff between him and the antagonist, Sugar. Dick Wolf was killed in his own home while he was thinking about the case, hence the flashbacks. I wanted to explain the true nature of his death through a news reporter's voiceover, as I thought this would be the clearest way of attempting to explain it. Following this, we are introduced to the assassin's home. The sinister voiceovers throughout the film are a front for the Mafia to direct the assassin towards their targets. The vermin mentioned in the prologue and conclusions voiceovers are the people the Mafia wants ending.
Pretty little flowers.
I used Keep It Knocking by Lewis Jordan to provide controversial sound for the overall dark events that have happened in the film insofar. The assassin opens his door to find a delivery man, flowers in arm. They are a gift. The delivery man is nervous because he knows who he is dealing with. Following this, the audience can decipher the assassin's motivations. The shot of the two cups hint that perhaps the assassin has a wife or something along those lines. The shot of the baby's toys hint that perhaps he has children, and the film's conclusive shot is that of a check. He does these gruesome acts because he wants to provide for his family. This adds a level of moral greyness to the story that was inspired by the Coen brothers. Greed is a theme that pervades throughout their filmography.